Thailand still gets sold as paradise for Western retirees, cheap living, warm weather, and the promise of an easier life. But for a growing number of people, that dream is starting to go very wrong. Behind the beaches and retirement videos, more Western retirees in Thailand are running into rising costs, insurance problems, visa pressure, family distance, and the sinking feeling that getting out may not be as easy as getting in. And that is what makes this so dangerous. Because for many retirees, ruin does not happen all at once, it happens slowly. Today on Dark Side of Tourism, we are breaking down the 8 reasons why thousands of Western retirees are now facing ruin in Thailand in 2026. Number one, they budget for monthly life, but not for irregular life. One of the biggest mistakes Western retirees make when planning a move to Thailand is that they budget for ordinary life, not real life. They add up the rent, the food, the power bill, maybe the phone, the internet, and a few small extras. Then they look at the total and think, that's affordable. I can make this work. And on paper, maybe they can. That is what makes this so dangerous because the real problem is usually not the monthly basics. It is everything that does not happen every month. Visa renewals, unexpected medical tests, emergency flights home, replacing a phone, an air conditioner, or a motorbike, insurance increases, a bad exchange rate month, a family emergency, a legal or paperwork problem that suddenly costs money to fix. Those are the costs that quietly destroy the dream because retirees often move to Thailand believing they have found a place where their pension or savings will comfortably cover life. And maybe for a while, that feels true. Month to month, the numbers can look manageable, but real life is not a neat monthly spreadsheet. It is irregular, messy, and full of moments that cost far more than expected. And once someone is older, living abroad, and relying on a fixed income, those irregular hits become much more dangerous. They do not just hurt the budget for one month. They start eating into the money that was supposed to protect the future. That is when the pressure changes. The retiree is no longer just trying to enjoy a cheaper life. They are trying to survive surprises. And the more surprises that show up, the more the whole plan starts looking fragile. Because a retirement budget that only works when nothing goes wrong is not really a safe budget at all. That is why this point matters so much. A lot of Western retirees are not ruined by their monthly life in Thailand. They are ruined by the cost they never properly built into the plan in the first place. Number two, selling everything back home can trap them harder. A lot of Western retirees think the smart move is to make a clean break. Sell the house, close old accounts, get rid of the car, clear out the storage, cut the bills back home, start fresh in Thailand. On the surface, that feels logical. Why keep paying for a life you are leaving behind? But this is where a lot of retirees make one of the biggest mistakes of all. Because once they sell everything back home, they are no longer just moving to Thailand, they are removing their way back out. That changes everything. Now, if the budget starts going wrong, they do not have a home to return to. If health problems get worse, they do not have the same backup. If the visa situation gets more stressful, they do not have the same safety net. If the whole Thailand plan starts falling apart, they are no longer deciding whether to leave. They are trying to work out where they would even go. That is what makes this so dangerous. A lot of retiree content makes Thailand sound like a clean upgrade from the West, as if the smart move is to fully commit and never look back. But the people who get trapped the hardest are often the ones who committed too completely. Because once you sell the life behind you, every problem in Thailand becomes heavier. You are not just dealing with rising costs, visa pressure, or health worries. You are dealing with them while knowing your exit is weaker than it used to be. That creates a completely different kind of fear. Because now, leaving does not feel simple anymore. It feels expensive. It feels complicated. It feels humiliating. It feels like starting over at the exact stage of life when starting over is much harder. That is why this point matters so much. A lot of Western retirees are not ruined just because Thailand got harder. They are ruined because they cut off too much of the life behind them before they knew for sure the new one would hold. If this video is opening your eyes, subscribe to Dark Side of Tourism because we look at the side of retirement abroad and dream destinations that most people leave out. Number three, insurance gets worse exactly when retirees need it most. A lot of Western retirees move to Thailand thinking insurance is the thing that keeps the whole plan safe. As long as they have a policy, they feel protected. As long as they are covered, the big health risks feel manageable. As long as the paperwork is in place, they believe the worst case scenarios are handled. That is the hope. The problem is what happens as retirees get older, because that is usually the exact point when insurance starts becoming harder, more expensive, more limited, or less useful than people expected. Premiums rise, exclusions matter more, Pre-existing conditions become a bigger issue. Coverage can feel weaker just when health starts becoming more unpredictable. And that is where the danger really starts. Because retirees do not usually move to Thailand expecting to be at their healthiest forever. But many still plan as if insurance will keep working smoothly no matter what stage of life they reach. That is a very risky assumption. Because once someone gets older, the question is no longer just whether they have insurance. It is whether they can still afford it, whether it still covers enough, whether it will still protect them when the serious problems begin. And for many retirees, the answer starts getting worse right when they need the answer to be stronger. That is what makes this such a trap. The retiree may have spent years believing they planned responsibly, only to realize later that the safety net under their whole life in Thailand is getting thinner with age, not stronger. That changes everything. Now, a health scare is not just a medical problem, it is a financial threat. It is a question about whether treatment can be covered, whether savings will need to be used, and whether the life they built abroad can still hold together if their health starts costing more than expected. That is why this point matters so much. For a lot of Western retirees, the insurance problem is not that they forgot about it, it is that they trusted it to stay strong at exactly the stage of life when it often starts failing them most. Number four, retirement visas are easier to get than to maintain. A lot of Western retirees look at Thailand's retirement visa and think, once I've got that, I'm sorted. That is the mistake, because getting a retirement visa is one thing. Keeping your whole life stable around it year after year is something else. On the surface, the visa can look straightforward enough. Meet the age requirement, show the money, get the paperwork together, follow the process. But what many retirees do not fully think through is what it means to keep doing that as the years go on. Because maintaining that setup can start becoming its own kind of pressure. You have to keep the money where it needs to be. You have to stay on top of renewals. You have to keep documents right. You have to keep proving you still fit the requirements. And you have to do it all while getting older in a foreign country where one mistake can suddenly feel much bigger than it should. That is what makes this point so dangerous. Retirees often imagine the visa as the thing that gives them security. But for some people, it slowly becomes the thing they are always trying not to lose. And once that happens, the whole idea of retirement changes. It is no longer just about enjoying a slower, cheaper life. It becomes about staying compliant, staying organized, staying financially ready, and hoping nothing disrupts the system holding your life together. That is a very different feeling from freedom. And the older someone gets, the more pressure that can create. Health problems, brain fog, stress, paperwork fatigue, and changing finances all make the process feel heavier over time. So the real trap is not always getting the retirement visa. It is building your entire future around the belief that keeping it will stay simple forever. That is why this point matters so much. For a lot of Western retirees in Thailand, the retirement visa is not the end of the stress. It is the start of a long-term system they may end up depending on more than they ever expected. Number five, Thailand's visa climate is getting less forgiving. A lot of Western retirees moved to Thailand believing that if they kept to themselves, followed the basics, and stayed out of trouble, the country would more or less stay flexible with them. That assumption is getting weaker because Thailand's overall visa climate is starting to feel less relaxed, less forgiving, and much more controlled than it used to. Even for people who are not doing anything wild, the atmosphere has shifted. And that matters because retirees do not just live under one visa rule, they live under the whole mood of the system. The stricter the country becomes with foreigners in general, the more exposed retirees can start to feel too. That is what makes this dangerous. It is not always one giant rule change that ruins people. Sometimes it is the slow buildup of pressure, more scrutiny, less flexibility, more paperwork, less room for error, more of a feeling that foreigners are being watched more closely than before. And for retirees, that can be deeply unsettling because retirement abroad only feels peaceful when the country still feels reasonably stable and predictable. Once the wider visa climate starts hardening, people begin worrying more. Will the next renewal feel harder? Will the rules tighten again? Will foreigners be looked at differently next year? Will the setup that feels manageable now still work later? That uncertainty changes the whole experience. A life that once felt open starts feeling conditional. A place that once felt easy starts feeling more fragile. And the retiree who thought they had found a simpler future starts realizing they may be living inside a system that is becoming stricter around them year by year. That is why this point matters so much. A lot of Western retirees are not just struggling with their own visa, they are struggling with the fact that Thailand itself is becoming less forgiving in the way it deals with foreigners overall. And once that wider mood shifts, retirement there can stop feeling secure much faster than people expected. Number six, pollution and climate can wear older retirees down, A lot of Western retirees picture Thailand as good for their health, warm weather, no freezing winters, more sunshine, more time outside, a slower, easier life. That is the dream. But long term reality can feel very different because what sounds healthy on holiday can become exhausting when you are living in it full time. The heat is not just warm, it can be draining. The humidity can wear people down. And in some parts of Thailand, the air quality can become a serious problem, especially for older retirees whose bodies are already less resilient than they used to be. That is where this starts turning into more than a comfort issue. Because once the climate and pollution begin affecting sleep, energy, breathing, and overall health, daily life starts feeling heavier. People stay inside more. They rely more on air conditioning. They feel more tired. They start dealing with coughs, irritation, headaches, or just a constant sense that the environment is taking more out of them than it gives back. And that changes the whole retirement picture. The warm climate that once looked like a huge advantage can start feeling like one more thing the body has to keep managing. The easier outdoor life they imagined becomes less practical. The healthy retirement fantasy starts turning into a slower, physical grind. That is why this point matters so much. A lot of Western retirees do not move to Thailand expecting the environment itself to become part of the pressure. But for some, that is exactly what happens. And once the climate stops feeling like a benefit and starts feeling like a strain, the dream of an easier retirement can begin to wear down much faster than they ever expected. Number seven, family distance gets harder as retirees get older. A lot of Western retirees tell themselves they can always fly home if something important happens. That idea makes the whole move feel safer. If family needs them, they will go. If there is an illness, a funeral, or an emergency, they will deal with it. If they miss people too much, they can always visit. But that gets harder with age because distance feels manageable when life is calm. A video call, a few photos, a promise to visit soon, that can make it seem like everything is still close enough. Then something serious happens. A parent gets sick. A grandchild grows up without really knowing you. A family emergency hits. Someone dies. And suddenly being far away no longer feels like a lifestyle choice. It feels like a cost. And that cost gets heavier as retirees get older because flying long distances becomes harder, money becomes tighter, health becomes less predictable. And the idea of rushing back for something important is no longer as simple as it once sounded. That is where regret starts building because retirees are not just missing events, they are missing time they cannot get back. And the longer they stay away, the more they can start feeling like they traded too much for the Thailand dream. A cheaper life may still have looked worth it on paper, but when family starts needing you or when you start needing them, the distance can suddenly feel much more serious than any monthly budget ever showed. That is why this point matters so much. A lot of Western retirees do not get ruined by Thailand in one dramatic moment. Sometimes they get there by slowly realizing that the life they built abroad came at a family cost they did not fully understand until it was already too late. Number eight, the safest retirees keep an exit plan outside Thailand. The retirees who usually cope best in Thailand are not always the ones with the biggest dream. They are often the ones with the best backup plan. That is a huge difference because a lot of people move to Thailand thinking the goal is full commitment, sell up, settle in, and build a whole new life with no reason to look back. It feels bold, it feels exciting, it feels like the right way to do it. But the retirees who stay safest usually think very differently. They do not assume Thailand will solve everything. They do not assume the costs will always stay manageable. They do not assume the visa system will always feel stable. They do not assume health will hold up. And they do not assume they will always want or be able to stay. So they protect themselves. They keep money outside Thailand. They keep some kind of fallback. They keep options open. They make sure that if life in Thailand starts going wrong, leaving is still possible. That is what separates enjoying Thailand from depending on Thailand. And that difference matters more than people think. Because once a retiree depends completely on one country, one visa setup, one budget, and one version of the future, every problem becomes more dangerous. A financial hit is heavier. A health issue is scarier. A visa problem is more stressful. A bad year feels harder to recover from. But when someone still has an exit plan, the pressure changes. They are not trapped in every problem. They are not forced to make desperate choices. They are not stuck pretending everything is fine because they have nowhere else to go. That is why this final point matters so much. A lot of Western retirees facing ruin in Thailand did not just run out of money, they ran out of options. And the retirees who protect themselves best are usually the ones who never let paradise become the only plan they had.